Hello, everyone, and welcome back one of these interview episodes of the SWW show. I'm Mike, and today with me a special guest to talk about, honestly, a very interesting looking game. To get us started, do you mind introducing yourself and the game we're here to talk about?
Yes, my name is Jakub Dąbrowski, known as Gobo. I'm the main developer behind uh, An Amazing Wizard. It's a 2D roguelike game where the main theme is that you create your own spells and use them to fight the enemies. So,
So, so that's that. I think that's the part that drew me to immediately is especially looking at it like obviously you guys have an absurd amount of like upgrades and stuff, and it's roguelike. So this making this your own spells though. Where did this kind of broad idea come from?
uh, well, at the beginning there was just only one basic spell. I had an idea of mixing Dead Cells and Binding of Isaac, where you have Dead Cell perspective, but that you will play like Binding of Isaac, but then I realized that it's just boring. Then I added some other spells like fireballs, gravity balls, etc. Then I added the possibility to uh, enchant your spells, like for example making the fireball going through walls or piercing enemies or that kind of stuff. And then I realized that I have the system ready to make actually combining these spells together, and it turned out to be real fun stuff. And yeah, I decided to make it my thing in the game. So it was like process of trying out different stuff, and yeah.
It almost sounds like a happy accident.
Yeah.
As I say, so at that point, did that so just kind of get started, kind of basically then, did that change the game once you kind of realized that that system works, or kind of, or did it kind of just kind of been like, okay, now we have like a foundation you kind of built on top of that?
It was like expansion of the game, I'd say, because the idea came to my mind like 2 years ago, and the game I started working on it like 5 or 6 years ago. So yeah. So yeah.
For a game at least of this size and teams of obviously that's a very long time to work on it. How has in this six-ish year development cycle then in some capacity, how different does this game kind of look now, or how at least how much does it kind of feel like a different game, or do you kind of feel like it's been the same game you've been working towards this whole time?
I feel like the game feels very similar. Just before you had no mana, cooldowns were higher, and you were just spamming different spells. So with the new system, there is mana as a resource, so limit how often can you have spells, but the cooldowns were limited, so you can decide which spells you want to cast more, which less, and it changed how you play the game, but it didn't change the basic I had in mind, like the story, like other things at the beginning. So it just changed completely how you play the game, and how you think about stuff when playing. For example, when I play, I constantly think about which spells should are matched together and what kind of effect I want to expect in the last levels. So, uh, and before you were just collecting spells, spamming them, and not thinking much about it.
No, that's interesting. So as we are obviously talking, the whole your initial pitch you said for this game was it's, correct me if I'm wrong, you said it's a combination of like Binding of Isaac and Dead Cells. Was
Yeah,
there
but nowadays it's more like Dessus plus Noita.
then so like when you're looking at these different games or genres that you're thinking of, like I want to think of ways to merge them or kind of combine and to make my own experience. Was there anything that you felt like these games or experiences were missing, and that's what kind of drew you into kind of thinking about them?
I just wanted to make something similar, but I didn't want to make a copy of a game because I don't think that's a good idea to make a copy of any game. But I think that every game can be upgraded in some way, and that when you combine ideas from different games, then you can make your own experience. Yeah, I was just thinking a lot of other games when making my own and adding some ideas on top of it. So I didn't have ideas. I didn't thought like the Dead Cells of Norta or Binding of Isaac were missing some points because these all are really great games, and I just thought about combining some stuff from them and making unique experience based on that.
Absolutely, that makes perfect sense. So obviously this, as we said, is at least in some foundationally a roguelike and procedural. When you were kind of going through and thinking about and kind of the game that's coming out soon, what to you in these games, as always I find interesting, is what's the level you felt should be procedural every time versus should be like a sense of permanence, right? So obviously different rogues throughout the last few years we've seen like them kind of fight over the level of like, well, you unlock upgrades or you unlock a permanent change, kind of like what was kind of your guiding principle for this permanence of this game?
Uh, when player unlock upgrades, I would like them to make stronger, but I don't want to feel to force players to unlock stuff to be able to actually beat the game. In a basic wizard, you can beat the game without even having a singular upgrade up. It's just upgrading some of the basic stuff, but a lot of upgrades I have in mind is about adding more stuff to the run themselves, like for example making some healing between runs, or making the spells stronger at the beginning, like having the fireball random effect on it at the beginning, like having it piercing enemies or anything like that. So yeah, I don't want to force upgrades on player. I just want them to feel, I don't know, better maybe, like adding more stuff to the run rather than forcing you to upgrade stuff. Hard to explain.
Yeah, no. I think that very much kind of makes sense. The reason I'm asking also is because obviously I think immediately I'm impressed kind of looking at the amount of like upgrades or artifacts, all these kind of stuff, and I just go like, there's so much here, especially from both a making it point of view and then kind of from the player kind of upgrading, unlocking stuff like over time, and that's kind of true too. And also like in that same context, then how did you kind of think about it, making sure that, as you said, the player gets more powerful, kind of they get this kind of continual ramp up effect, but they still have a challenge or still something kind of to work towards.
Yes. In the main game, there are 4 difficulty levels, and starting from the second difficulty, you unlock fifth biome, because in the first difficulty level there are only 4 biomes. And when I think about upgrades, I think about them like you need most of them to beat the hardest difficulty, but to beat the easiest one, you don't need anyone. So you will progress more. You will become more and more experienced as you playing more and more runs, and at the same time you will you should unlock almost everything until you actually get to the last difficulty level. So I want the progress to be natural rather than forcing you to repeat.
So it almost
Stuff.
so to me it almost reminds me of, I like it reminds me of like when you see people talk about like games like, I think I was playing a game a bunch of time like Halls of Torment was this game where it's kind of equivalent to like a Vampire Survivors one, and that's like reminds me of the way you're talking about like the sense of the upgrades being there kind of for this continual like new levels and difficulties. So as we're talking also, I'm assuming kind of you've done a bunch of testing with people, and obviously you have that demo's been available kind of out on Steam. I'm curious, has you as you release this to more and more people, did did the game have different feedback than you were expecting, or did you have to kind of change anything kind of that you thought was obvious or intuitive that kind of had to be shifted over time?
Well, I have released demo of my game 1 year and a half ago, the initial demo, and the feedback was that a lot of people liked it, but there was also a lot of negative stuff, like they were missing quality of life stuff, etc. But thanks to the feedback given by people, I was able to upgrade almost everything in my game. And yeah, I I took a lot of ideas from people, and it has upgraded the game really nicely. And also, I have a publisher, and we signed a deal almost a little bit more than 1 year ago. And my publisher also helped me greatly with increasing the game's quality by telling me a lot of their ideas about what can be improved, about what should we focus on, etc. So yeah, feedback is really important, and I consider everything that people write, and I focus on the things that repeats the most in the feedback, and I think that is the way to success. To just focus on the most important things, and you can sometimes ignore feedbacks when there is literally just one person talking about some stuff. But when they talk about bugs, then I sometimes had calls with people, and they were showing me how to reproduce some bugs. Some people were helping me with fixing some bugs which I was unable to reproduce on my PC. So yeah,
Those,
people had
those are always the worst.
greatly.
The like bugs that are like graphics card dependent, or this. It's always like this level of like when you get
Yeah, yeah.
which you're like, I need your exact PC specs. You're like, I just don't know what's going on.
The hardest, the weirdest bug I had was that one player once told me that he cannot jump in my game, and was like, "What? Why? what happens?" And he just sent me video where he was doing only some micro jumps, and the bug was related to his graphic card AMD, and that he had VSync on, and then for some reason some frames were cutting from the game, and he was unable to jump. And easy fix was just to disable the VSync and by default. But yeah, it was really weird to see stuff like this.
Yeah, I am always in shock the amount of things that shouldn't break things that do. Have you kind of gotten into a groove of like some sort of testing when you get like these weird cases like that, or is it very much like I get a weird case, I'm going to try to ask them to kind of hop on a call to kind of see what's more going on?
Well, I always ask people for logs, but there were no errors, nothing. The machine was telling that there is something wrong. So yeah, I just was releasing different versions and was asking him to check if it's working or not. Yeah, I'm really helpful, thankful for such people, but yeah.
No, that
I have no idea how many people who could, for example, install the game, had the bug and just uninstall it. You know, I have just no idea how long. There might be some bugs I'm not aware of, and people might just not responding them to me. You know.
good old game development here. As we are talking, obviously, so we said there is so much going on kind of in this coming level of upgrades and artifact stuff. One of the big things that I'm seeing is you talk about that you can choose 7 different wizards to kind of play through. Do you mind talking about like one or two, either your favorites or maybe most interesting, kind of, and how kind of they play differently to each other?
I can give an example of, for example, Earth Wizard. When you unlock wizards, they have mostly stats difference. Like for example, Earth Wizard, Earth spells casted by him are stronger, but fire spells are weaker. But as you unlock more stuff for the Earth Wizard specifically, then he will have, for example, stronger summon, stronger healing, and you just focus on different stuff, trying to collect different stuff when you level up, choosing different packs, so make his own stuff even stronger. Like he's more like a tank, for example, and Fire Wizard is like a glass cannon where you take more damage, but you deal more damage. So when I was making these wizards and upgrades for them, I was thinking about different playstyles. Like Lightning Wizard is all about movement, for example, and high attack speed. So I'll just
I was gonna say that's interesting. What kind of drew you to like that type of like thinking when you're thinking about the different classes? Kind of was there like archetypes you pulled from? Was there something you just like I want to kind of see different balance techniques? Is there any thoughts on that one?
not really. I was just thinking about elements, and then I was thinking about what would fit the element the most. Like it was just my interpretation of what each element is. But you can also no matter which wizard you choose, you can still force any build. You force many different builds for many wizards. So yeah, through perks, through artifacts, through the spells you create yourself. So you have a lot of freedom, no matter which wizard you choose.
It's it's so interesting. It's always interesting me when you see this level of volume of stuff, and I just think of the age old problem of balance. Just because it's obviously so much. Has there have you kind of internally or kind of when other people are kind of messing around with stuff seen any level of like usually we have a set level of players progress in a certain way, or is it because there's so much stuff that you're just seeing a wide variety of different ways people are kind of progressing down the chains?
That's really interesting because some spells are, for example, really weak on their own, but when you combine them with others, they can become extremely overpowered, and balancing this stuff is obviously really hard. But when I see something really OP, but I know that is very hard to, very rare to actually have such strong combination, then I just leave them be. But if I see some spells occurring often and I see that they are too weak, then I just buff them. But balancing is balancing is really hard, especially that I have 4 difficulty levels and enemies gain more attacks with difficulty level, and I have to think about all of this stuff. Like for example, bosses having also more patterns, more different attacks, and yeah. When I balance stuff, I mostly think about the hardest difficulty and ignore the rest, knowing that players will get to it sometime. And for example, when you have everything unlocked from the meta progression, then the first difficulty will be really easy, but the last one will be challenging at the same time. So.
For bosses, obviously. So as you're talking, right? So it's a game that, with these levels, obviously you have a bunch of kind of bosses mixed in too. Is there any boss of yours that stands out as like a favorite to either make or kind of face against that you've talked about?
Every boss is unique in his own way, so it's really hard for me to just choose one that I like the most. But I think that it would be Fire Boss. I think, but only because I just really like his design and yeah.
liking a design is a valid reason to still say it's one of your favorites. I've been looking at your Steam page. There's this one that I keep kind of seeing flowing that almost looks like it's the same guy. It looks kind of like a biped like demon type giant fire guy, and that to me, like I remember initially being like, oh, that looks very cool. Thought. But this looks. I think this game looks very fun. Obviously, as we are talking, you come out at least currently on your Steam Q1 of next year. Is that still the case?
Can you repeat?
I said currently as we're talking, it says on Steam that your game The Amazing Wizard comes out in Q1, so first quarter of 2025. Is that still the case?
Yeah. Yes, it should be possible, but maybe it will be at the very beginning of quarter 2, and yeah, it should be between quarter 1 and quarter 2 of the next year, but closer to the end of quarter 1 than the beginning.
Perfect. So again, the game is An Amazing Wizard. You could currently wishlist it out on Steam. Is there any other spot we should be sending people to go kind of check it out?
They can also check out the An Amazing Wizard prologue if they want to see the demo of the game, because I have temporarily disabled the demo version. So if you want to try out the prologue with just one level and only 4 wizards, if I remember correctly, and like half of the spells, half of the artifacts, then you can test it right now on Steam.
Or any of that fun stuff here. Is there any other thing on the game that you feel that you want to talk about or kind of shout out, kind of either systematically or the look, or anything else that you feel like we didn't touch about enough on this game?
I think that we touched the most important topics, so yeah.
Perfect. Well, again, thank you for talking to me today, and best of luck as you kind of get towards the holidays and finishing up this game. You're in that fun, stressful time, but hopefully you get yourself some nice rest and some nice, relaxing holidays.
Yeah.
So,
I'm
best of
also
luck.
waiting for my pixel artist to create stuff, and so I can add them to the game, because all my systems are finished. So yeah, I'm not as stressed as I should be.
That's the best line I think I've heard. Not as stressed as I should be. So again, thank you for talking to me, and have enjoyed the rest of your day.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.